So I saw Wonka a few days ago because I made a trailer thoughts video about it. So I figured, even though the video got like 5 views, I would still review the movie anyway. So Wonka is a prequel origin story film for the character. He's trying to pursue being a chocolate maker while also dealing with the chocolate cartel who is trying to stop him. And also he befriends this little girl named Noodles, and he tries to help her get out of debt, and along the way she kind of becomes his partner and helps him on his journey. So first I'll start with my positives. I think the best thing about this movie is Timothée Chalamet's performance as Willy Wonka. I think he captures the character really well. He was great. In fact, I think he captures the character so well that I honestly believed that he would grow up to be the Gene Wilder version of the character. That's how good he was. Like, I think even though this film isn't like a direct prequel to that film or either of the films that came before, but I think if you were to watch this film and then you would watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, I think you would believe that they are the same person. So that just goes to show how much the filmmakers cared about the source material and cared about the character. They weren't just like, trying to cash in on Willy Wonka. They actually did put effort into this film. Also, the set design and the costume design is really good. I thought this movie looked incredible. It's really beautiful to look at, some of the scenes in this film. One thing I really do appreciate about this film is that it doesn't do that stupid thing that like a lot of prequel movies do, where it tries to fill in every single gap that you already know about a certain character or a certain story. Like, the Star Wars prequels did that a lot, and Solo, a Star Wars story, did that. It's just not necessary. Those types of prequel films that, like, will shove in every little detail that you already know about the film that came after it. They'd show you characters from the other films that don't have a point to be in the prequel film, but hey, they just put it in there because, look, that's that character when they were younger or something like that. Or they'll just have like a mini little like cameo appearance, and it's just really unnecessary, and it's just there to like, shove in the audience face, look, there's that character. Or, they'll put in a little detail about the main character that we already know that they had in the other film. They'll put it in the prequel film just to, just again, to fill in those tiny little gaps. But again, it's not necessary. We don't need to see everything that we already know in a prequel film, Like, for example, with Solo, a Star Wars story, you have that dumbass moment where, Han Solo is like, you see how he got his name. He's just like, oh, I'm just Han. And then the guy's like, Han Solo, or something like that. And it's just so stupid. In this film, you don't see like a young Grandpa Joe. You don't see like a baby Charlie. You don't see any of that shit. They don't, put in every single detail. They do leave things open still for more things to happen. They don't just like shove everything about the other two films in there. We don't see any of the kids as like babies. We don't see any of the parents in these movies from those films. We see Slugworth, who's part of the chocolate cartel, but that's pretty much it. Outside, I think those are the only two. I think Willy Wonka and Slugworth are the only characters from the previous films that are in this film. So I really do appreciate that. So this next point is both a positive and a negative, so it's kind of the transition into my negatives. The songs in this film, there's a lot that are really good. There's some that aren't so good in my opinion. I think the songs are pretty hit and miss. Again, not terrible. Even like the ones I didn't really, like as much as some of the other ones, I still enjoyed all the songs in this film. So, that's good. I don't think. This is hard to say considering that I'm such a fan of the original film, so this is probably not saying much, but I think the songs in the original film were way more memorable than the songs in this film. But again, take that with a grain of salt because I've only seen the film once. So obviously, you know, it just came out and I'm trying to compare the songs that I just heard to the songs that I've been hearing for years. So, you know, again, that's not saying much. So, but, you know, there's that. I did enjoy the songs. One thing that I noticed about this film is that the editing is kind of weird at times. I think the editing can be kind of too quick at some points. Now, don't get me wrong, the editing is not as bad as something like Quantumania, because Quantumania had like dog shit editing, and it was so quick and rapid that it's like you couldn't, like, you were like, what the frick just happened? You know, like it wasn't like you're staring at the screen wondering what happened. You know, the editing is not that bad. The editing is still like, for the most part, you're still able to like understand what just happened, but I just noticed there was some scenes where, you know, they would quickly cut to like a character in their reaction to something, or they'll cut to a character with something they did, and I just thought it was just like maybe like 2 seconds too early. I don't know if that's just, maybe that's just me. I just thought it was, the editing was a bit too early at some points, like the cut was a bit too early. But again, not like a huge deal. Again, not as bad as something like Quantumania. My next point involves two small things I noticed. Well, not really small things. I think these are like genuine problems with the writing. But the first scene that I had this problem with is the scene where Willy Wonka is talking to Slugworth and the chocolate cartel, and he gives them some chocolates that make you float. So he gives them the chocolates without telling them first what they do. So they eat them, and, you know, they eat them, nothing happens. But then eventually they start floating. Okay, fine, no problem so far. But then right after that, when Willy Wonka, like, lets all the chocolates go into the air and they start floating, a bunch of the people around him start to, like, try to grab the chocolates, and they eat them, and immediately they have a reaction to it. Like, they immediately start floating, which I thought was pretty inconsistent, like, because we just showed that it takes a bit for the effect to work. So these people eat the chocolate and immediately start floating, but Slugworth and the chocolate cartel eat the chocolate and nothing happens at first, and they start floating after like a few minutes. It just didn't really make sense to me. And there's another scene later on in the film that's just like that. So basically, Willy Wonka finds out that the chocolate flowers have a strange side effect, and it turns out that someone had spiked the flowers with poison, and it makes your hair change color to like blue and green and orange and stuff like that. But then when Willy Wonka tests out the chocolate and like taste tests it, nothing about him changes. He's like, I guess he's like immune to it. I don't get it. His hair color doesn't change, so I just thought that was weird. And my last negative is that the comic relief at times is not great. It's not like the worst comic relief I've ever seen in a film. Far from it. It's not even the worst comic relief I've seen this year, Quantumania. But again, that's like the second time I've referenced that film. But it's not that bad, but I just thought it was like, it wasn't really that funny. It's mainly the comic relief mainly involves the people that Wonka owes money to, the place that he stays at with Noodles and all the other people. There's a lot of comic relief with those two characters, and I just didn't really think it was that great. But again, it's not, you know, it's not like groan-worthy humor. It doesn't make you, you know, want to like leave like, it's not that bad, but I just thought it was just not that great. So I really don't have much else to say. Overall, I did really like the film. I thought it was good. I've seen some people say, like, it's really, really great. I wouldn't really go that far, personally. I thought it was pretty good, but, you know, not, like, you know, one of the best films I've seen in a while. I do think it's way better than the 2005 Tim Burton adaptation with Johnny Depp. I think I really don't like that film, and I think that this film was much better than that. However, it doesn't even come close to being as good as the 1971 with film with Gene Wilder. There's like just no way. But definitely one of the better prequel films I've seen. I'm gonna give Wonka a 7 out of 10. So yeah, I really enjoyed the film. I would recommend it, especially if you're a fan of either of the two films that came before. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.